Support for WUWM podcast comes from Life Navigators, your disability partner, offering disability services for over 75 years. More on their family resources at lifenavigators.org or their helpline, 414-774-6255.
From 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR, this is Lake Effect. I'm Excurret Nunez. Today we'll break down what's been happening at a dog breeding facility in Wisconsin after a video of activists breaking in has gone viral. Then we'll share an update on tick bite cases in Wisconsin and how to prevent them.
Tick season has started about 2 weeks earlier than what it did for last year. And so it's not necessarily an increase in the number of ticks that we're seeing compared to previous years, but just an earlier appearance of those ticks.
Plus, we'll talk with a food truck owner about the planned curfew for food trucks in downtown Milwaukee.
I feel like my voice should be heard because, hello, I am a small business. I've been here for such a long time.
All that's coming up on Lake Effect. This is Lake Effect from 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. I'm Excurret Nunez. Thanks for joining us today. A dog breeding facility in Wisconsin has captured national attention. Activists have protested and broken into Ridgeland Farms in Blue Mound, Wisconsin, to perform what they call an open rescue. The farm breeds dogs that are used for medical research. And videos of the dogs in cages and activists storming the facility and leaving with some of the dogs have gone viral. Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel investigative reporter Quinn Clark has been covering Ridgeland Farms from the start. She joins WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez to break down what's been happening there.
I feel like I should have popcorn for this. But can we start this story on March 15th? I know it goes much deeper than this and much further back than this, but March 15th of this year, because before that, I'm guessing that a lot of people in Wisconsin didn't know about either beagle breeding, animal testing in the state, or Ridgeland Farms. Mm-hmm. So what happened on March 15th?
On March 15th, dozens of animal activists, led by Wayne Shung, an animal rights attorney, broke into Ridgeland Farms, and they were able to take 23 beagles, and all of them are now at undisclosed locations. But sometimes there are videos posted by, like, the Marty Project, an animal rights organization, will post some videos of the dogs looking happy, chewing on a dog toy, doing dog things. So they look happy, they look good. After that, everything kind of started ramping up. I think people didn't know about Ridgeland Farms.
No idea.
Yeah. One of the main activists who has gotten a lot of records from the Department of Agriculture said she grew up around Ridgeland Farms and she had no idea.
So can we get into these activists as well that stormed the facility very dramatically, like live streaming it all? It almost looked like hazmat gear, like an all-white gear, like holding the dog as they're like running from the facility. So can you just tell us who these people were?
So Wayne Shung is an animal rights attorney, and he has been an animal rights activist for a long time. That wasn't his first, what they call an open rescue. So they're very open about it, transparent. They wanted pictures, videos, because they believe that they have the right to save the dogs. One activist is very active on Facebook. A lot of it is on social media. She said that it's like saving a dog from a hot car. If you see that, you have a moral obligation to help. So it's just people who love animals and they have what they thought they had the right to do.
Yeah, and it was like in the March break-in, it was around 60 to 75 activists that stormed Ridgeland Farms. And I do want to talk about Ridgeland, but I do also want to get to the noise or the claims that came from what was going on inside Ridgeland. And this is from a whistleblower that testified last January that you had also wrote about, who testified that the dogs at the facility had their eye glands and vocal cords cut out without anesthesia. kept in small wire cages without outdoor access, developing sores and blisters on their feet. This story went viral because of how dramatic the video footage is of the break-in, but for a lot of people, it was also because of the testing of drugs on dogs. So what should we know about animal testing and the testing that was happening on these beagles specifically?
So the facility mostly breeds beagles to sell them to research facilities like labs that will test different drugs on dogs before they can go to human trials. It was required by the FDA for a very long time until 2022 that you had to test on two mammals, one non-rodent, before it can go to human trials. And we can thank dog testing, beagle testing for insulin and a lot of diabetes treatments that dog testing was able to help with, because their makeup is similar enough to humans that you can test if a drug is safe enough to go to human trials.
And you also write, like, beagles are kind of perfect for this kind of testing because they're docile and smaller, easier to handle too.
It's dogs in general, we can use them for testing and research to compare how humans might react. But if you had a bunch of giant, St. Bernards or golden retrievers,
could be tough.
Yeah, that's not as easy. So beagles became the go-to for the non-rodent animal to test on before human trials.
The other thing that you kind of get into, but I know I've heard and seen around animal rights activists, are that there are alternatives to animal testing. Is that true in every case? Like, you were kind of talking about insulin and the documented cases of how some of this testing also helps dogs with testing that's being done at UW-Madison, who they do use dogs within their animal testing. Are there alternatives to the research that's being done here?
There are definitely alternatives, and researchers in the research community are divided on whether these alternative methods can be relied on. Some researchers believe that we are on the way to completely eradicating animal testing and being able to use things like AI or like stem cell research can be an alternative to actually testing on animals. And there's also the argument that it's really not that accurate because so many times how dogs react to something is different in the human trials. So there's a push to invest in alternative methods and progress in that research, and researchers say that we're on the right path. And Wisconsin was kind of pioneered stem cell research, so activists think what better state to lead the way to alternative methods.
Fascinating. I had no idea about the pioneering stem cells, and then also having the beagle breeding facility of Ridgeland in our backyard, which, if we can get into the farm just for a second, because they've been in the crosshairs, as we were kind of like talking before we got on here, for a long time. So what were they doing, and how was the facility being used before the first break-in?
Mm-hmm. So there are about 2,000, over 2,000 beagles that were in the farm. They were mostly breeding the dogs so that they could sell them to other research facilities. Things like the cherry eye procedures or former employees claiming things like having vocal cords cut. Mm-hmm. Those kinds of things were not for testing. They were just...
They look better, like, aesthetically?
Yeah.
As a dog?
Yeah. The big complaints about Ridgeland farms and claims of mistreatment, those don't have to necessarily do with research going on in the facility. It's mostly how they took care of the dogs.
Mm-hmm. And Ridgeland has said, and you've included this in your reporting, is that the dogs at Ridgeland Farms are happy, healthy, and well cared for. Publicly available USDA documentations shows that this has been the case for many years. USDA records show that 30 inspections conducted between 2014 and this year, that only 4 resulted in any findings, and none of them were critical. Mm-hmm. But that didn't stop another break-in attempt. This one, even more dramatic, I would say, than the first one. This was just a couple weeks ago, April 18th. What happened with this story just a few weeks ago?
Activists under the name the Coalition to Save the Ridgeland Dogs were very open about they were going to go save all the dogs on April 19th.
Over 2,000 of them at this point. Okay. Yeah.
And you could sign up on a website that was very public and say how you wanted to contribute, whether you wanted to actually go inside the facility or stay at the perimeter. And they had nonviolence trainings over Zoom. So it sounded very organized, and then chaos ensued. I did not know that they were going to change the date, but suddenly, I'm going on social media and I'm seeing Wayne Shung posting, pictures, live streaming, and he was arrested almost immediately. But they changed the date because, according to the coalition, they said that they wanted to avoid police presence, but obviously that was not the case, and police were ready.
It feels like things kind of come to a head when there is this anonymous donor that comes forward or is talked about from the coalition that we've got this $1 million purse to exchange to release the 2,000 dogs. And I'm curious, whose money was put up, and did they actually free the dogs?
So watching live streams of April 18th, there were talks of negotiating with through law enforcement to purchase the dogs from an anonymous donor. Obviously, on that day, no dogs were released, but eventually, according to the organizations who purchased the dogs, that it was under $1 million, but they did not give an exact amount. But they came to an agreement with Ridgeland to release 1,500 of the dogs, and shelters from across the country and local were ready to take them in.
If you're just joining, we're seeing the first transport come out of Ridgeland with the pups. They're going to freedom and safety.
So we have like a head count of all of the dogs here, except for 500 that are still at the facility. So what's happening there?
Yeah, like over 500 beagles are still in Ridgeland Farms, but Ridgeland Farms has said that they want to keep under wraps what they're going to do with the rest of the dogs right now because of the break-ins and what they describe as extremist attacks on the facility. They want to not, disclose what they're going to do with the rest of the dogs, but they haven't been specific about what research they're going to do there. It sounds like all of those dogs are going to be sold, or it doesn't sound like they're going to stay. That's my hypothesis, but Ridgeland Farms is being on the low about it.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye out on what happens there.
Yeah.
What we learn is that Ridgeland, they have agreed to let go of their breeding license because of the claims that were filed by this whistleblower. They're now selling off the dogs. As far as animal testing goes, FDA, under Trump, has removed the longstanding mandate for animal testing and some drug development. So this sounds like a win all the way around for activists. Is this a win for science?
I think if we jump the gun and completely say, animal testing is illegal or we can't do it anymore and we completely get rid of it at this point, it's too early to do that. According to researchers that I spoke to in the research community, they are hopeful for our alternative methods, and whenever they're available, they'll do them, but they're largely skeptical about jumping the gun and saying that should be completely illegal.
Quinn Clark is an investigative reporter for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel who has been reporting on Ridgeland Farms. She spoke with WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez. 1,500 beagles have now been removed from the facility as a network of animal shelters and organizations work together to rescue the dogs. Emergency room visits for tick bites are higher than usual across the country, including here in Wisconsin. Health officials say warmer spring weather is prompting ticks to show up earlier than previous years, which means people are more likely to run into ticks as they head outdoors. Zia Lee is a public health entomologist with the State Department of Health Services. He joins me to share the latest on tick bite cases and how to stay safe this tick season. What are tick bite cases looking like right now across Wisconsin?
So tick bite cases here in Wisconsin, or at least from our data that we have in terms of emergency room visits that are related to tick bites, we are seeing an increased number of visits compared to previous years. What we're seeing this year, we're seeing about 66 visits or so around this time. If you compare that to last year, we're seeing about 40 or so visits. So you can see that the numbers are up a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, we had about 44 visits to the ED. And then you compare that to last year, which was about 24 visits. So you can see where the numbers were double this year compared to last year. And we think a lot of that has to do with the increase in the tick populations that are appearing right now. So we're seeing an earlier start in the tick season. So tick season has started about 2 weeks earlier than what it did for last year. And so it's not necessarily an increase in the number of ticks that we're seeing compared to previous years, but just an earlier appearance of those ticks.
Understood. So what is making ticks come out even earlier? Like, what kind of conditions do they thrive in?
So when the weather gets warm in the springtime, that's usually when we see the adult ticks start to become active. And so in this case, the adult deer ticks. So here in Wisconsin, we generally say that when the temperatures get above 40 degrees in spring and then there's no snow cover, then the deer ticks start to become active and they start to look for someone to bite or something to feed on. And we see something similar with wood ticks as well, that during the springtime, when the weather gets warm, they also start to become active as well. And so I think this year we had a warmer spring. And so the ticks have been activated just a little bit earlier than in previous years.
So do you think that the cases that we're seeing right now is the peak, or do you expect the number of ER visits for tick bites to go up?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It depends on a lot of factors. In general, we do see those ED visits go up as we move into the summertime because that's when more ticks will come out. Right now, we're seeing just the adult deer ticks and then just the adult wood ticks. But as we go into the summer months, we see that the adults are still around. They're sort of lingering around. Their populations or their numbers aren't as high as what they normally are during the springtime. But during the summer months, we also see an increase in the number of juvenile life stage, the nymphal life stages. So generally speaking, in terms of just sort of monitoring those trends of ED visits related to tick bites, we generally see them spike during the summer months. And that's also partly because we as humans were more active during those summer months. And so we're more likely to come in contact with ticks that are also out there during that same period.
Something to clarify, just because you get bitten by a tick doesn't mean you have Lyme disease or a disease gets transmitted. But how common is this disease in Wisconsin, and what's the likelihood of transmission?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So here in Wisconsin, we have, unfortunately, quite a number of pathogens or diseases that can be transmitted by the deer tick. So in general, with the diseases, the transmission time is very different for each of them. But in general, when we think about the pathogen that causes Lyme disease, that pathogen can be transmitted between 24 and 36 hours after attachment, right? So after the tick has bitten you, to move from the gut of the tick into its mouth parts and then into you. And so with that sort of transmission timing in mind, so if the tick has bitten you, here in Wisconsin, and you remove it before 24 hours, we have guidelines that recommend that you just sort of wait and see if you develop any symptoms. But if the tick has been attached to you for more than 24 hours, then in that case, we recommend that you remove that deer tick and then go in for prophylactic treatment. And so just thinking about that, in terms of the percentage of the ticks that are infected with the pathogen that causes Lyme disease, here in Wisconsin, we calculate that on average, 20% of the juvenile life stage, and those are the ticks that are active during the summer months, so June and July, that 20% of that life stage are infected with the pathogen that can cause Lyme disease. With the adult ticks, since they've had 2 opportunities to feed and 2 opportunities to pick up a pathogen, generally when we do the math on that life stage, we see that about 40 to 50% of that life stage are infected with the pathogen that causes Lyme disease. But with all that being said, I think it's important to know that here in Wisconsin, because there is such a high prevalence of the pathogen, 20 to 50% of the ticks are infected with the pathogen that can cause Lyme disease. We treat every tick bite as if the tick is infected without having the need to actually test those ticks for that pathogen based on those recommendations that I provided earlier, that if the tick has been attached to you for more than 24 hours, we treat it as if the tick is infected and has potentially infected you. So you go in and get treated for potential Lyme disease.
I'm Lake Effect's Excret Nunez speaking with Dr. Zia Lee about the recent tick bite cases across Wisconsin. So you were talking about this. If someone gets a tick bite, how can they remove it and report their case?
So with tick removal, our recommendation is to take a pair of tweezers and grab it by the mouth parts and slowly pull the tick off until it either releases or it comes off. The different tick species, the way that they release it's a little bit different. And sometimes too, mostly with the deer tick, when you try to remove it, the mouth parts can break off and stay embedded in you. That's not a sign that the tick is infecting you, nor is it a sign that the tick will infect you. It's just a broken piece of the tick's mouth part. It can do nothing in your body. And so we recommend that you just leave it in there. Your body will take care of it. We've seen people try to dig it out, and that just usually ends up with leads to a secondary infection. So just leave it in there, clean it off with some soap and warm water. And then, of course, like I said, if the tick has been on you for less than 24 hours, just sort of see if you develop symptoms related to tick-borne diseases. And if the tick has been on for you for more than 24 hours, then we recommend that you go see your healthcare provider about getting treated for prophylactic treatment for Lyme disease.
And with the weather warming up, what are some other ticks and tick-borne diseases people should keep an eye out for as they travel out of state this summer?
So we do have the Lone Star tick that does show up occasionally here in Wisconsin. But for the most part, if you're traveling outside of Wisconsin into those southern states, that's the natural range of the Lone Star tick. That tick is of special importance here in the United States because a tick bite can lead to alpha-gal. And so alpha-gal, if you're not aware, is a disease where you become allergic to red meat. And so a bite from a Lone Star tick could potentially lead to a situation where you can become sensitive to red meat. So when you eat red meat, such as, beef or pork, you might develop, allergic reactions to that. And that could be, the symptoms vary from mild symptoms like gastrointestinal symptoms to something a little bit more severe like anaphylaxis. And so it's just very important to know that if you are traveling outside of Wisconsin, to know where where you're traveling and whether or not the Lone Star ticks can be found in those locations, and then to take preventative behaviors in order to prevent a tick bite from a Lone Star tick.
And before I let you go, can you share some advice on how people can prevent tick bites?
Yes, absolutely. Tick bite prevention, I think about it in 3 different stages. And so I think about it about what you can do before you head outside, what you can do while you're outside, and then what you can do after you come back from being outdoors in areas where there may be ticks. And so before you head outside, I recommend that you check the location where you're going, especially if you're traveling outside of Wisconsin. Here in Wisconsin, in every county, we know that there are deer ticks, and so your risk of coming into contact with a deer tick is pretty high here in Wisconsin. But if you're traveling outside of Wisconsin, like for example, you're heading to states where there may be Lone Star ticks, to be aware of where you may come into contact with the Lone Star tick. Another thing to consider before you head out is to consider treating your clothing with a product that contains permethrin. And so that's a insecticide that's lethal to ticks and mosquitoes, but it's fairly safe for humans. And so in that case, if you treat your clothing with that, and you forget to apply bug spray, when the ticks grab onto your clothing, they'll get that lethal dose of that permethrin and it'll kill them before they can attach to you. Or if they do attach to you, it'll kill them before they can transmit any pathogens to you. So that's what I like to think about before I head out. While I'm outdoors hiking in areas where there could be ticks, I like to do tick checks whenever I stop. So if you're hiking on a trail, you get to a bench in the trail, just do a quick tick check. You don't know where the ticks are. Some of these ticks, like the wood ticks and the Lone Star ticks, are active hunters, meaning that they will seek you and hunt you down while you're standing there in the woods or while you're hiking through the woods. Other ticks, like the deer ticks, they tend to be ambush hunters, meaning that they like to wait for you to brush up against them on vegetation. And so just do, your tick checks whenever you stop. And that's a good opportunity to remove any ticks before they can attach to you. And then, of course, while you're out there, use bug spray. Target areas where ticks are going to grab onto you. A lot of the adult ticks are grabbing onto us around our thigh region, around our shin region, and our waist region. And then when you're done being outdoors and you come back inside, I recommend, again, doing a thorough tick check to make sure that you don't carry any of those passengers into your home, and then take off your clothes, throw them into the dryer, run it on high for about 20 minutes, and that high heat will kill any ticks that are still left on your clothing. And then, of course, take a shower. And that's also an opportunity to do another thorough tick check on yourself to make sure that you don't have any ticks attached to you. So those are my recommendations in terms of what to do to prevent tick bites.
Well, that's a lot of great advice so we can still enjoy our time outdoors this summer. Well, Dr. Lee, thank you so much for speaking with me today and helping me understand the latest on ticks in Wisconsin.
Yes, thank you for having me on.
Sia Lee is a public health entomologist with the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. You can report tick sightings at dhs.wisconsin.gov/tick. Wisconsin was hit with a spate of severe weather in April. The National Weather Service offers training to keep people in the know and help them provide important information to their neighbors during severe weather. We'll stop into one of those classes later in the show. But first, Milwaukee is planning to change the hours that food trucks can operate downtown.
Do you have a sense of how much of your business is coming in between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m.?
About 80%. It's a lot, about 80%. So by them stopping that, that's a lot. That's almost like you telling me I might as well just close this down.
A food truck owner shares the impact a curfew could have next on Lake Effect on Milwaukee's NPR. You're listening to Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM. I'm Excret Nunez. Last month, Milwaukee's Common Council passed a curfew for food trucks operating downtown. Alderman Robert Bauman says a 10 p.m. closing time will curb violence and loitering, especially around Water Street. The curfew would affect a 2-square-mile area encompassing downtown. One food truck owner has filed a lawsuit against the city, and a judge has put the curfew on pause at least until June 10th. But for food truck businesses that rely heavily on late-night customers, this new curfew could threaten their entire livelihood. WUWM's Catherine Kokel spent some time with Vanessa Gonzalez, owner of the Mr. Taco food truck parked on Water Street. Gonzalez begins by describing the food truck.
We are called Mr. Taco. We're on Water and Juno, right on the heart of downtown. I would say all shiny steel, so it's like almost you're standing inside of a mirror looking at yourself. It's a kitchen. It also has where our food prep table is, where my food warmer is, where the cook cooks in the back. He's got his skillet. It's like a skillet, almost like a stovetop grill skillet. We have a sink. We have windows. If they go past, you can look right inside of our truck because our windows are bigger than normal windows, and we have it set up like that just because we like it better where the community can see inside and see how we're preparing their food. So this is how our truck looks.
Excellent. You painted such a good picture. And I actually noticed that when I was walking by, that typically when you're standing at a food truck, you're kind of looking like 2 feet above your head. But when you walk by your truck, when you're on the sidewalk, you can literally see all the way in, which is just kind of different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's more for social, like as people go by, we can look at the people, the customers, and the customers can look at us and they can see our whole layout. That is the whole purpose of why we built it like this. I know there's not a lot of trucks that are like this, but mine's are like this. Actually, all of them are.
How did you start this business? Do you have a brick and mortar store that you started with, or has this always been a mobile operation? How many trucks do you have?
So I started originally with a brick and mortar. It was called the Caribeña on 19th and Mitchell. We started with one truck. Right now we have 4 trucks and our brick and mortars.
I was going to ask about the Caribeña name because it's like, this is notably not Caribbean food. So are you Mexican?
My husband is Mexican. I am Puerto Rican.
Oh, I see. Okay. Mm-hmm. Where's your husband's family from?
Michoacan. So the way that we cook is Michoacan style.
Do you serve any Puerto Rican dishes?
We have our little tips here and there that we, like our ground beef, we make it Puerto Rican style. So we have a mixture of culture there a little bit with our food and our seasoning. A lot of people, when they come and they try our food, they say, whoa, this is totally different. Just like when they try our birria tacos are made the way that they're made in Michoacan. So they're totally different than versus Oaxaca's or other places. Also, our al pastor meat is made how Michoacan does it, Morelia style. So it's like totally different. We have good, natural home recipes versus followed by anybody. No, we have our own special touch, our own special technique in our seasoning. Excellent. In the truck. So we have both worlds.
They're both kind of colliding here, if you will, in this space. How long have you been operating the truck at this location on Water Street?
Since we started.
Okay. How many years is that?
It's about a decade.
Why'd you pick this spot?
Well, it was one day we drive down this way, and we used to drive. We used to see like commotion of people here, but no food trucks, none. And me and my husband were discussing, and I'm like, hey, we should try this out. And literally there was none. We were the first truck to park here on this side. We had a lot of differences that we went through, a lot of bumps through the road, but we've been here for a long time, a decade.
Do you have a sense of, like, generally, if you look at your books over the course of a summer, do you have a sense of how much of your business is coming in between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m.?
About 80%. It's a lot, about 80%. So by them stopping that, that's a lot. That's almost like you telling me I might as well just close this down, because it's a big loss. It's not a little jump. It's a horrendous hit to the pocket.
What are you going to do? Do you know?
Right now, I'm still we're talking to lawyers, and there's a lawsuit, because we wanna move the motion. We're fighting for the motion is what we want to be heard, and we're fighting for that, to be heard. Is what I want is for the city to actually acknowledge us, stop blaming the food trucks for what's going on down here, because it's not the food truck.
Speaking of the changes to your operating hours, when did you first hear about this? Do you remember?
Honestly, I can tell you I didn't hear about this until after it was in the news, when one of the other food truck owners, after the bail went through and everything, reached out and told me, hey, did you hear about this? I didn't even know. I could speak about myself. They never reached out to me. They never told me anything. And usually for everything, they reach out to me. I have emails. When they did the first change from 1 to 3, they sent me emails and everything telling me that they were going to meet and everything. This time, no, they didn't acknowledge me at all. So I kind of felt offended. I kind of felt hurt because they never heard me. They never reached out to me and said anything. And I feel like my voice should be heard because, hello, I am a small business. I've been here for such a long time.
Have you ever seen fights or violence? I mean, obviously the biggest thing I think in most of our minds are gun violences and things like that. But when I talked to city leaders, they were like, our big concern isn't really even people coming out of the bars and being hammered and going up and buying food. Our major concern are people who are actually too young to be in the bars, who they say are loitering around here. Have you ever seen any fights or violence from the windows of your truck?
I've seen it, but I've also seen it like right across the street from the bar, coming out of the bar. A lot of them. The younger crowd we have seen, where there is younger crowds that like commute to like the corners, like outside of the bars or like by Qdoba, you could see it because on our other truck there's a window in the back part, so we could see that. And then you can also see, because since we have cameras 360, you could see literally what's going around us.
Today, we're hearing a bit of my conversation with Vanessa Gonzalez, the owner of the Mr. Taco food truck on Water Street in downtown Milwaukee. In April, Milwaukee's Common Council passed a 10 p.m. curfew for downtown food trucks. They said that it would curb violence and loitering. The curfew has since been challenged in court by another food truck owner and is now paused until June 10th. While we were talking in the truck, Gonzalez shared that she's currently expecting her 6th child. I asked her if she ever fears for her safety while working in the early morning hours on Water Street.
I do not. I have worked pregnant here before.
65.
A few times, it would seem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you've never been concerned about?
No. I actually worked all the way through almost until I gave birth.
So something I'm thinking about a lot as I'm reporting this story is like how this kind of disproportionately impacts immigrant families. And I know your family is Puerto Rican and Mexican, but I'm just curious like how you think about that and how you think about the impacts of this on specifically immigrant-owned businesses.
Honestly, I think that in this impact, I do see that it's going to be harm for the immigrant. When my husband started, he was an immigrant.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it started like that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people do start like that. But some get lucky, some don't, and yeah, it does. It is more, I have to say, towards that perspective that it is going to hurt a lot of immigrants. It is, because a lot of them depend on it. A lot of them look for this as their growth. And it's a very hard impact. It is.
I also wanted to ask, can you move your truck to another place outside of the zone? Are there any places that would be profitable for your business where you can operate till 1 a.m. that you can think of or know of?
So you can actually do move over to another area, but mind you, it's not going to be the same because people are used to us being here. It's like starting over. Literally, it's like starting from zero and growing back up, building back up. It's not the same. It would pretty much be start a new location, start from zero all over again, and see how it goes. Because it's not going to be the same commute what we're used to looking at people walk down through downtown late at night. Around the city, they don't just go out and walk at night. They don't just go and seek food at night anywhere. So you see, that's why it's going to be a hard impact, because it's literally, where else are you going to park at this time that it's open with people around?
Thank you so much for talking to me about this and for showing me around your truck. It's really cool, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well.
Vanessa Gonzalez owns the Mr. Taco food truck on Water Street, which operates in downtown Milwaukee. She spoke with WUWM's Catherine Kokel. Do you need some flexibility for when you listen to Lake Effect? Well, you can listen to us on demand. Find Lake Effect as a podcast wherever you like to listen, download it, and enjoy on the go. Still to come, we'll visit a storm spotter class and learn how it prepares Wisconsinites to track and report severe weather. That's next on Lake Effect on Milwaukee's NPR. This is Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM. I'm Excurret Nunez. This spring has already brought a lot of severe weather, from flooding to high winds and an unprecedented stretch of tornadoes across the state last month. This is also the time of year when our local National Weather Service offers training for people who want to be able to spot and report severe weather. WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez dropped by the most recent storm spotter training in Bristol. He spoke with meteorologist Kevin Wagner about what someone can expect from the class.
We're in the Midwest, so we have severe weather. So this is our one way to kind of get out into the community and teach people about severe weather, and also kind of help us do our job, because we need to know what's going on when severe weather is happening. So we're here at the Skywarn Spotter Talk to train the community about how to report, what to report when severe weather actually happens. Because when we're doing warnings, we want to get that information as much as we can, because it helps us verify ongoing events.
So who here has done a spotter training before? Raise your hand. Okay, a lot of repeats.
We have a lot of great tools that help us, like radar and satellite, but we need boots on the ground to really tell us if it's actually happening. And that we can get that into our warnings and downstream let people know that, hey, this is actually occurring. We have spotters reporting it. We have the fire department reporting it. It's actually happening. Seek shelter.
And so that's what we're doing here. We are here forecasting this to give people that information so you know to be prepared when this is happening. Know what to do when this is happening. This class, we're actually going to be learning about how you can send that information to us so we can get those warnings out to people downstream so they can be safe.
So I'm going to go through this 2-hour class, learn how to spot these storms, spot severe weather. What kind of skills, tangible skills will I have when I am those boots on the ground, when I'm like calling you up like, hey, Kevin, this is coming in. What am I going to know?
So we're going to try to go through a lot of different aspects. We can probably spend days going over these topics, but really it's just a broad overview of what severe weather, kind of how to figure out in advance what to expect, so kind of being prepared ahead of time. And then when the forecast actually calls for it, what do you do? What's the timing? What's the difference between a watch? What's the difference between a warning? What's the different types of clouds that you can expect when we're actually seeing severe weather? What do we want you to report? So we want to report a tornado, how to report a tornado, wall clouds, and then also kind of going over the safety aspect of it, because that's our main mission with the National Weather Service, is protection of life and property via weather and decision support services with weather. So we really want to keep people safe, and by doing that, we have volunteers that are trained to help us give us that information.
Okay. And then for folks who are not aware of that this class happens, and that it's even an opportunity to become those boots on the ground and to help feed that information to you all, can you just give a quick breakdown of where they can find these classes and how much they cost?
So this is entirely free. We are part of the federal government, so everything we do, our education is free. We do it every spring up here. You go to our website, weather.gov/Milwaukee. You can get that information. Right now, we're kind of at the tail end of our season with it, but next spring you can look for it online, and we kind of list it out typically beginning in March and goes through May. Our area in southeast Wisconsin, we at least try to get to each county every year. But for those of you that can't make it, we also have been offering online courses as well. So you can see that online, the schedule. But if you aren't able to make those or the in-person training, we also have a website on our homepage, so weather.gov/Milwaukee. If you go down to the bottom and search for Skywarn, we actually have a lot of that information and additional tools that you can kind of go through, learn about weather that way as well.
I feel like I stumbled across both a YouTube presentation and then maybe the slides as well, just kind of like poking around.
Correct, yeah.
You were talking earlier about storms and warnings and watches.
Been in the National Weather Service 10 years. Watches and warnings are still one of the more challenging things to try to describe to people. But to put it down in easy to understand Wisconsin terms, tailgates. We all been to a tailgate. We got a tailgate watch and a tailgate warning.
Can you tell me a little bit about the difference? Because we had a lot of questions come in over the past couple months with all of the rain, all of the wind, and then a lot of people in Milwaukee were hearing a lot of alarms that they were not used to. So can you tell me a little bit about those kind of differences and what kind of weather we've been seeing recently in Milwaukee? Because I think it was kind of a big deal month for tornadoes.
Yes, very much. April kept us very busy, seeing 4 days and 4 out of 5 days of severe weather that we had a tornado, or at least each of those days, is unprecedented but not unheard of for this area. Typically our season starts a little bit later in the year, but for April it does happen, and this year happened to be the time.
It was nonstop, multiple overtime hours for our office. We were 24/7 round the clock, and took us almost 2-3 weeks to kind of catch up on everything behind us. Because again, these are all the tornadoes just in our southeast part. We had one here. I believe this was on...
I've been in the National Weather Service, going to be 10 years this week, actually. And yeah, the difference between a watch and a warning is still one of those tricky things for people to kind of latch onto. But really it breaks down to the watch is kind of ahead of time. The ingredients are there for severe thunderstorms. We're seeing things come together like on the models, usually a couple hours ahead of time. And so that's usually that kind of the first kind of broad brush at, hey, things are coming together. We got the ingredients for severe weather. Now it's time to start preparing if you're going out later in the day for it. Now, when we have a warning, that's when all those ingredients come together. And we're actually seeing the storms develop. We're seeing the threats. So that's either large hail, anything 1 inch or greater, or winds greater than 58 miles per hour, and a tornado. So if we start to see those, we'll issue the warnings. That means that the threat is either ongoing or is imminent or about to occur. So that's when we want people to heed the warning, take action, and get to your safe place.
Like you said, you've been with NWS for 10 years, and I think something that I feel really comfortable with or safe with is the fact of when that extreme weather's happening, I'm checking your Twitter. You guys are on it, letting me know and letting people in the region know what's happening, what to know about weather, difference between the watch and the warning. How have things changed for you and your ability to do your job? You're still doing this outreach, like you said, you've been doing since the original Twister, incredible. But how have things changed for you to be able to do your job and do the work that you're doing?
Yeah, it's an evolving science because it's constantly changing. We're getting new technology, new computing, new models. So when I started my career as an undergrad, we had maybe a handful of models. Now we have hundreds of runs on one model. So it's a lot of information, a lot more technology that we're actually adapting to. AI is another one that's kind of on everyone's mind right now, and that's actually starting to get into our models, kind of learning we can work with that. Also, breaking it down. When I started, satellite images were coming in every 15 minutes. Now they're coming every minute. We can even get 30-second updates. So we got satellites, we got models, so a lot of different technology. But we also need someone there to kind of interpret that information to the people so you can understand what to do when it does happen. Because it is a lot of information. My old professor used to call it drinking from a fire hose because it's just coming at you all at once. So now our role as the NWS, it's really kind of breaking it down to people, the decision makers. So like working with emergency management, fire departments, police departments, and breaking that, and even our media partners, because we work with broadcast media when things are going on, to get the word out. So we're really kind of working on trying to break it down in simplified terms. We know all the nitty-gritty science behind it, but to get it so people actually take action to be safe, make that decision, that's kind of where we're moving towards.
Also kind of analyzing what's happening after the storm happened. So we really want to know that information so we know if our forecast is accurate, and then ways we can improve it as well.
I'm Carl Schulze from Twin Lakes, Wisconsin. And this is my granddaughter, Sally, and she is from Lyons, Wisconsin.
My name is Lori, and I am from Kenosha.
I am Jackson, and I'm from Kenosha.
So, what is your favorite type of weather?
Sunshine, blue skies, and about 85 degrees.
Sunshine, blue skies, and probably like 70.
For me personally, I like the overcast.
Do you like the rain that comes with it, or just like overcast, gray skies?
Just the overcast. I'm not really a fan of rain.
Tornadoes.
Tornadoes? You like tornadoes?
Yeah.
Why did you come out tonight?
So we could learn more about weather and hazardous weather and what to look out for and what's not to.
Probably to help me not get so scared of storms. I think if I learn more about them, it'll help me get less nervous.
I want to learn more about what to look for and how to alert my family for emergency situations.
Luckily, we haven't been involved in anything real serious, but we do get together when it's raining and it looks kind of scary outside. So I come over and visit her, and we sit and talk, or sometimes she's at our house when a storm goes by. So I just want her to not be so scared all the time. And I think that not being scared comes with knowing more about what's going on.
Okay, and to that point, what have you learned tonight so far? You want to go first?
Technically how to spot storms and know if you should go into shelter and stuff like that.
Pretty much how to read the maps and what to look for on the maps.
And then understanding how the apps work and the websites and all that stuff, where to look for information. That's kind of cool. I like that. So
on the radar, then you know where there's tornadoes and stuff.
Then my final question: are you planning on storm spotting?
Maybe someday. Yes. Whether she says yes or not, we both are going to be storm spotters.
You have to be like if you're a storm chaser, you have to be like really careful.
What's that?
Because one wrong path, the tornado can hit your vehicle.
And that'd be bad.
Yeah.
That was WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez reporting. He spoke with meteorologist Kevin Wagner with the National Weather Service. That's Lake Effect for today. I'm Excurret Nunez. Audrey Nowakowski, Joy Powers, and Sam Woods join me in producing Lake Effect each week, with help from Graham Thomas. Becky Mortensen is our executive producer, and Emily Files helps edit the show. We also heard from Mayan Silver, Jimmy Gutierrez, and Catherine Kokel from the WUWM news team this week. Jason Reevy is our studio engineer. Valeria Navarro Villegas is our digital operations manager. Trapper Shep wrote our theme music. If you missed any of Lake Effect this week, you can find all of our conversations at WUWM.com. And if you want to take the show on the go, you can download the Lake Effect podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Join us again on Monday at noon for a bonus episode of Capital Notes. Thanks so much for joining us today on listener-supported 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.